Kharkiv, Ukraine's second-largest city, has been thrust back into the spotlight as it faces a renewed offensive from Russian forces. Over the past week, the city has endured intense shelling and missile attacks, disrupting daily life and causing significant civilian casualties. The attacks have targeted residential areas and critical infrastructure, leading to a dire humanitarian situation. Local authorities have reported multiple casualties and considerable damage to buildings and roads. The city's hospitals are overwhelmed, struggling to cope with the influx of injured residents. Schools and public services have been suspended indefinitely, leaving the city in a state of paralysis. The situation remains volatile, with ongoing military operations making it difficult for aid to reach those in need. The international community has expressed deep concern over the escalation, urging an immediate ceasefire. Meanwhile, residents of Kharkiv are bracing themselves for what might come next, with many seeking shelter in basements and improvised bunkers. The spirit of resilience is palpable, but the fear and uncertainty cast a long shadow over the city. The current Russian offensive in Kharkiv represents a significant escalation in the conflict, involving heavy artillery, airstrikes, and the deployment of ground troops. The scale of the offensive is vast, aiming to seize strategic positions and inflict maximum disruption. Analysts suggest that Russia's goal might be to encircle the city, cutting off supply routes and communications to wear down Ukrainian defenses. The humanitarian impact is severe, with thousands of civilians caught in the crossfire. The continuous bombardment has led to a critical situation with shortages of food, water, and medical supplies. The destruction of infrastructure has not only affected residential areas but also halted most economic activities, plunging the city into chaos and uncertainty. The international response has been swift, with many countries condemning the attacks and calling for sanctions against Russia. Humanitarian aid organizations are attempting to coordinate relief efforts, but access remains a major challenge. The situation in Kharkiv is a stark reminder of the devastating effects of modern warfare on urban centers and civilian populations. From the Russian perspective, the offensive in Kharkiv is portrayed as a necessary step to achieve security objectives. Russian officials claim that the operations are targeted against Ukrainian military installations, accusing Ukraine of using civilian areas as shields. However, these assertions are widely disputed by international observers and independent media, which have documented attacks on non-military targets. Ukrainian officials and citizens, on the other hand, describe the assault on Kharkiv as an act of unprovoked aggression that violates international law. They emphasize the indiscriminate nature of the shelling and the profound suffering it has caused to civilians. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has called for international support and stronger sanctions against Russia to deter further aggression. The global reaction has been one of outrage and solidarity with Ukraine. Numerous countries have expressed their condemnation of the Russian offensive, with some pledging additional military and humanitarian support to Ukraine. The situation has also reignited debates within international forums about the need for more robust mechanisms to protect civilians and prevent such conflicts. The renewed offensive in Kharkiv is likely to have profound long-term implications for regional stability and international relations. The conflict has the potential to redraw geopolitical boundaries, influence security alliances, and reshape the diplomatic landscape. Increased military engagement from Western countries in support of Ukraine could escalate tensions, leading to a more polarized global environment. On a humanitarian level, the devastation in Kharkiv will require years, if not decades, of recovery efforts. The displacement of thousands of civilians will continue to pose significant challenges for Ukraine and neighboring countries, potentially leading to a prolonged refugee crisis. The loss of life and destruction of property also have deep psychological impacts on the population, which will endure long after the conflict has subsided. Furthermore, the international community's response to this crisis will be a test of the effectiveness of international law and humanitarian principles. The situation in Kharkiv could set a precedent for how global powers address violations of sovereignty and human rights. It underscores the urgent need for comprehensive strategies to manage conflicts and protect civilians in war zones.